Welcome back, episode 4 of The Rant, the best bowling show in the world. And this is part 2 of the 3-part series featuring Phil Cardinale, CEO and president of Radical Bowling. And I
Yeah,
didn't get this right yesterday. Not only are you CEO president, you own the company, right?
I do. I do. I own the company. Yep, started the company about 10 years ago. So it's been that long.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it.
And that's where we're going to get into part 3 when we talk about that. So
Okay.
yesterday when we left off, I
Yeah.
took some notes.
Yeah. Okay.
You had left Colombia, went to Dynathane, brought the
Yes.
kangaroo shoes,
Right.
and then Dynathane went back to Colombia,
Yeah.
and then you started
Yeah.
900 Global. So I want to pick up right where you
Okay.
said you left Colombia and went to Dynathane. What
Yeah.
took place with that? How did that happen, and what was your experience?
I had a bit of a disagreement with the president of the company on market share and a few other things. Track was doing great. So I mean, you look at the numbers. There was no reason for us to have a falling out, but there was a lot going on the Columbia side. I was the president of Track. Track was not part of Columbia. It was a separate entity by the same ownership of Columbia and Columbia 300. There was actually two. A lot of people don't know this. There was Columbia Industries and Columbia 300. They were two
Interesting.
separate companies.
Okay.
The manufacturing was owned by one person, and the sales side was owned by another. Then they had a president that ran both, and Track was a third entity. So we had a little bit of a disagreement on market share and how we should be going direction. And anyhow, I leave, and Bill Chrisman gives me a call and says, "Hey, I got a company that's overseas only. It's called Dynathane. Why don't you and I partner in this company?" I said, "That's great." So we partnered. I make a trip over to Japan. I visit with ABS, who was the biggest distributor in the world. And I cut a deal with ABS for Dynathane, and they start carrying Dynathane. And next thing I know, they had some shoes. So I talked to Chrisman. We get in the shoe business as well as the ball business. And the company takes off. We won a couple of weeks on tour. Walter Ray won with the ball a few times, throwing the particle Vendetta, the black Vendetta particle. We had a lot going on. I mean, and the company grew leaps and bounds. In 5 years, we were doing great.
What year is this that you went to Dynathane?
2000-ish.
Okay, so reactive resin is well on its way.
Yeah,
And now
yeah,
now you got particle. You said the magic word.
yeah. But I had an additive that soaked oil into the cover faster than anything in the world. So I had a soaker cover stock.
Okay.
The oil just dissipated like that, So anyhow, the balls are growing great. We're selling a lot of them internationally. We're doing fantastic. Things are going well. And then Bill Chrisman decides that he wants to try to cut a deal with Columbia to build some storm balls. And he says to me, "Listen, how about we sell Dynathane to Columbia, and you go back to them, and we'll be all on our way." And I said, "That's fantastic. We'll do it." So he does. He sells it. We build some storm balls for him at Columbia. Things are going great. And I am now vice president of sales and business development for Columbia. So I went from being president of Track for them to vice president of sales. And at the time, the ownership had called me up and said, "You want to come back?" And I said, "Well, I had some problems." He goes, "They're all gone." So they got rid of everyone in management that had created the problems. And I go back, and now I'm running the sales side of the company. And we're doing well. We're starting to make our inroads. And I had developed 2 cores that we were going to use for Columbia's next 2 balls. One was a Columbia ball, and the other one was I already had gotten out on the market, which was the Track Phoenix. And that ball was great performance-wise. I developed the cores for both of those balls,
Okay.
and we're ready to go. And before we could launch them, the ownership calls us in and says, "Hey, the family has decided we want to sell the company."
Sell Dynathane.
No, sell the company, Columbia, and all the brands.
Oh.
So they put out for sale, and they take the highest bid that comes in without any negotiating. That's the way they set it up. So the highest bid that came in was from Ebonite. So Ebonite buys Columbia, Track, Dynathane. They didn't want the shoe business at all, right? So now I'm without a job at this point.
You're out.
I'm out. Yeah, they're only going to hire certain people. The funny story is I was part of the decommissioning of the plant, and I went into the meeting with Bob Reed at the time, and he said, we don't have anything for you. I said, that's right, I got other plans. and I did. So we went out and decommissioned the plant, and when it was all done, we realized that there were a bunch of pieces left over, a lot of pieces left over. So we called up Ebonite and said, hey, guys, there's a lot left over. No, we don't want them. You guys get rid of them. So we did. We bought them from the Columbia ownership and put the factory back in the same exact spot where it was at the Columbia plant, and became 900 Global.
Yes, so that's something I did not know. Is
Not
that you
a lot of
started
people know that.
the 900
Yeah.
Global. That's interesting because that started down there in San Antonio, right?
Yeah, in the same spot as Columbia's factory.
Okay.
So I never had left my office. I'm there. The only time I was out of that office was the couple of years I was gone with Dynathane. I moved back in. I was in the same office again. So nothing really changed. So we start this global brand, and again, I have strong ties internationally.
Well, hold on. Let's back up for a
ahead.
second. How did you actually come up with the idea to start? I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff left over, but you had to have some partners in all this. So what made you come up with this idea?
Well, first of all of the people that worked in the factory were no longer employed.
Wow.
The factory workers that were down there, it's funny because when Ebonite got sold, they blamed Brunswick. Oh, you guys did this.
Yeah.
You know what? Really? The ownership closed the factory.
Yeah.
You can't blame the company that bought it. So Ebonite come in and bought, and the only reason it wasn't that popular deal when we did it, there was no internet. Internet wasn't as popular. There was no trollers going on, and all of those people that know everything about bowling but have no skin in the game. Those are my favorite people in the world. They know all the answers but have no skin in the game.
Sure.
So you got to realize that I have right now 32 years in the business. At the time I was 20 some odd years. I was a rookie compared to the people that worked in that factory.
Okay.
They were 25 to 35 years of experience. So when we said to them, what if we bought all of this machinery and put it back together? Could you guys do it? They said, absolutely. We had a few pieces missing. It took us about 6 months.
Okay.
So in the meantime, we had gone to Storm and asked them to build some balls for us while we were getting up. And they said, fine, they would do it. So we got up and running. We had some finance backing. And it was going well. We were very profitable the first and second year. But in the third year, there was some monies moving around. And I sort of was like, I'm not comfortable with this. So we separated.
Right.
And I started Radical.
A lot of people still think that 900 is owned by Storm, and it sounds like when that was happening, you decided to separate your piece away from there.
Yeah, Storm did not own 900 Global. It was an equity guy.
Yes.
That put the money up.
I got
investor. So at that time, I said I'm separating, but I had Radical built on my balls because I had ties to them and I had some easy core stuff in place. So I started building Radical balls. And probably 6 months, 8 months in, I get a phone call from Nick Stickler, who's the boss at Brunswick. I was good friends with the late Brett Perrier. So they fly me to Muskegon and said, we want to build your balls. I said, let me tell you something. I'm at a point in my life where I don't want somebody building balls for me. I want a partner. I want a partnership where you have skin in the game, in my game, and I have skin in your game. So they said, okay, let's think about that. But I said, I have a 6-month commitment to Global to finish out the balls that I have and all. Well, in the meantime, Nick Stickler leaves. Corey Dykstra, who is now the boss.
Right.
I love Corey to death. What a great guy. And Brian Graham. Now, I'll tell you a funny story about Brian Graham real quick. When Brian first got out of college, he used to work for Turbo. So I'm friends with Laurie Mraz, Bernhardt or whatever at the time. Anyway, Laurie says, next time you go overseas, can you take Brian with you? I said, yeah, okay. So I make this plan to go to Asia. We go to Japan, Korea, Taiwan, and I take Brian with me. So I'm exposing Brian to the whole international market. And during the conversation, Brian was the first staff member that I signed. I guess we were still at track. Might have been still at track at the time when it happened. But he was the first staff member I signed as an amateur. There were only like 3 in the country. Pat Healy was one, Chris Barnes was the other, and Brian. So I signed Brian to an amateur staff contract. And we were friends ever since then. Brian came to work at Columbia when I was there at track. And, you know, we got to work together. He was a sales rep, and then he had left. He had some reasons similar to one I ended up having a year or 2 later. So anyhow, Brian calls me and says, what are you thinking? I said, hey, let's put something together. He said, how about a licensing deal? I said, that's great. Let's come up and talk about it. So I fly to Muskegon, and we spent some time talking. And anyhow, we put together, it's going to be 9 years now, a license agreement with Brunswick for Radical. Mm-hmm. So that's how we went from track, Dynathane. You know, it really sounds like I can't keep a job. Track, Dynathane, Columbia, 900 Global, and Radical.
You're like a bowling apostle. You just go and plant bowling churches, and they become companies.
Funny. Yeah. So the funny thing about my deal with Brunswick, and a lot of people don't know this, is they made it so that I can't start a new company when I leave.
Interesting.
Well,
you got a non-compete, right?
Well, it's a 5-year deal after I retire. So, I mean, think about it. I'm done anyway. But they were aware of the fact that what I was good at doing was leaving, starting a company, selling it, or getting out of it, and then starting another company. Mm. So I give them credit for picking up on that one real quick. You know, it's pretty interesting. But it was a lot of fun, and starting a new brand like Radical was great for me because I started with a clean slate. You know, I didn't own any staff members. I had nothing.
And so what's interesting, the theme I keep hearing is that your companies tend to be successful when they go your way.
Yeah, absolutely.
When they start going a different way, they tend to kind of sink a little bit.
Yeah, you have no idea. I mean, I have some numbers of what happened when I left Global and where it went, and the other. Yeah, you know, I have a model that I build to. You know, I always keep my fixed costs down, so I can, and I always have variable costs. So if anything goes bad, you can always adjust them. But I mean, there's return on investments I have to see. You know, all sorts of things that people don't look at. Maybe they, you know, I'm an old school business guy. I mean, I went to college. I took business and marketing. But, you know, in those days, there were no computers. It was all book stuff. So I've always stuck to that plan. You know, I put together a strategic plan that looks at 1 year, 2 year, 5 years. So all my companies have been successful when I was there with them. You know, when I left, a lot of other things happened.
So I'm just curious, with some of those, did some of those companies try to get you back?
Well, you know, like for instance, when I went back to Columbia, Track was still there, and I went back as the vice president of sales for Columbia, and Track guys thought I was coming back to take over that company again. Well, I was at a bigger picture at that time. So, you know, no, there's Crispin tells me, you know, I talked to him a few times about the Global. He said the timing was bad. I had left before he could buy it because he owns it. I mean, you know, so he said he felt that I would have been a good fit. I probably would have been. But at that point, Brunswick treated me like a king. I mean, they gave me the perfect deal for what I wanted to do. And obviously, look at the numbers.
Sure.
Here we are 9 years later. It's working great. But, you know, they did the right thing. Brunswick is fantastic when it comes to that. Corey and Brian, they just, you know, we didn't even negotiate. It was like, here's what we think is good. And I said, that's fair. Give it to me.
Okay.
That's
a quick conversation.
And both parts like that when it happens that way, you know.
Right.
So it's fantastic, you know. So, I mean, the fact I still own the brand, when the time comes, they're going to buy it if I decide to retire. Although, sitting through this virus where you're sitting at home. I don't think retirement is going to work.
You're probably aching to get back to work.
Oh my God! I'm come to the office to find things to do. I can't sit at home. You
Right.
know, I've never been that kind of guy. So I've been. Let's see. I'll be 68 in September, right? For 40, 50 years, I've gone to work every day.
You don't miss work.
I don't miss work. I don't take days off. I go to work every day.
Do you sleep?
Yeah, I sleep, but I go home, and I go to work every day.
I asked that question because there's a lot of entrepreneurs. Their brains don't stop, so they only sleep 2 or 3 hours a night.
Problem. Yeah, I don't like when that happens. I'm miserable the next day, and it happens. Don't get me wrong. When I have things going on, especially pressure situations, I have a problem sleeping. But you know what? The great part about it is when you figure it out the next day or the next week or the next month, the reward is so fantastic. You figured this out, and it's your money.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't figure it out for somebody else. I figured it out for me.
Well, you're the one who went in with all the investments, so you should reap the reward.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's the way business
so I love
works.
it. That's exactly right. And again, it's the license agreement with Brunswick is fantastic where we're at right now. And there's a lot that went on before. We can talk about that later on. But
sure. I want to hear about it. Absolutely.
I know you do. The part that I love the most is that I'm still in charge. I've been running companies for this will be 32 years that I've run a company. It was Track. It was Dynathane. I was the head of the sales for Global, Radical. It's just Columbia. Even Columbia, when I was there for Columbia, I was in charge of sales. I'm responsible. So,
I can't even imagine what this is going to be like if you actually ever retire.
I can't. I don't know if I can. It's what it is. It's just that there's so many things that I can think of to do to a company within a company, and you know what? It's not a lot of work, Chris, because I've been doing it so long. It's a model.
Mm-hmm.
I just have a business model, and if you stick to that model, it works. It's like playing the stock market. You could take chances and have a zoom, and next thing you know, you're not. But with the model, I have a steady progression, and it just keeps going.
Sure.
And all my brands have always done well when I was there.
Who came up with the idea of Radical, the actual name?
I did. Me.
Where did that come from, though? What gave you the idea?
I don't know. We were sitting there talking one day, and I was kicking around some names and ideas, and I said, I really need to be doing something that no one's done before. And I'll tell you about the philosophy of the company. But it was like, I got to do something that no one's done before. And it's got to be something radical to the industry. Mm-hmm. Well, then there it was, And what I did differently with the brand is I geared it towards the guy that's 175 to 195 average bowler. That's who I geared the brand to. If you take a look at the guys above that, above 200 and so, I call them the 5%ers. Okay? The guys that are high average bowlers are 5%ers. They don't buy anything. They don't. If they're all on somebody's staff or they get in a comp ball, whatever it is, right? And here's what else happens. If you go look at the bar after league, who do the 240 bowlers hang out with? They hang out with 240 bowlers. They don't talk to the 180 and 190 guy, but he's the guy buying balls.
You're speaking my language because my channel is a digital magazine for the league bowler. And it fills the void because 90% of the people buying the balls are your standard league bowlers. They're not the staff guys. Right. You're 100% right about that.
Exactly right.
And they don't have a voice in the conversation.
They do not. So I built this company to build a ball that works for the guy that wants to stand on the big dot, throw it over the second diamond on a house shot. Mm-hmm. That's the ball I built. That's the brand I built when it started. Okay? Wow. My first few Radical balls were perfect for house shots. The Torrid, the Torrid Affair. They were all house shot balls. The Jackpot. Go through the list of the balls in the beginning.
I had a Jackpot.
What happened? It's a good ball. It's a great ball for a house shot. Yep. Perfect ball for a house shot. Right. So I built the brand based on the premise of I'm going to appeal to the guy that no one appeals to. Mm-hmm. If I gave away a comp ball, I gave it to a 190 average bowler in the league. So here's what happens. The guy goes and bowls good. Is the other guy going to say it was the ball or the bowler? Well, they're going to say it's the ball because the guy, he's terrible. According to them, He's terrible.
Right.
So he bowl good with the ball. It must be the ball. He tells 2 people. They tell 2 people. They tell. Next thing you know,
Yeah,
have a
word of mouth.
following.
Everybody does something good. Yeah, they're going to tell 10 people.
Right. That's right. And I'm not paying for it.
Nope.
Right.
That's free
Now the same
advertising.
thing. Right. If you look at our Radical fan page, Jim Nemeth does a fantastic job. What a good guy he is.
Mm-hmm.
We have the highest membership of any company in the industry. We have over 11,500 members on our fan group. How does that happen? How does a company the size of us have that big a fan group? And they're all advocates, and they're so much into it.
Radical Bowling
on that fan
has
page.
Such a strong following right now. It's stronger than it's ever been.
Absolutely. Right.
That's something
and
I
that's
can
the
attest
model.
to. Yep.
That's the model. We sit there and say, I'm going to guarantee that we don't ignore the average guy who takes his hard-earned money and buys a product. That's why when we build the ball, it does what we say it's going to do.
One of your biggest fans, he's actually one of my viewers.
Okay.
His name's Nick Carlson.
Okay.
And he
NIC. That's NIC, right?
Yep.
NIC.
Yep.
Yeah, I know who he is. Yeah. He's always posting.
He loves you guys. And you know what? His
we love him.
Sometimes he gets charged a lot, but let me tell you, if you guys ever decided, this is a guy that had, I think, a stroke, and part of his body doesn't work, but he still bowls and loves Radical.
Yeah.
So let me tell you, you're working because guys like him, they watch your stuff all the time.
That's who we target. That's the guy. I don't care about Mr. I can strike with anything. Okay, that's great. Good luck to you. That's fun. But, a funny story. When I was on Long Island, one year I was bowler of the year for Long Island. And I hate comp balls, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
So I'm bowler of the year in Long Island, and AMF is on Long Island. AMF is on Long Island. They're in Westbury. So the guy that was the head of their consumer products, or one of the consumer product parts of their division, says to me in league, we bowled in this Garden City Seaboard Classic League, strongest league on the East Coast. He says, Phil, I'd like you to try out one of our new balls.
Mm-hmm.
I said, wow, that's great. The guy's name was Roy Ryan. I said, okay, Ryan, thank you. Appreciate it. The next week he brings the ball. It was already drilled. He said, plug it and drill it. Tell me what you think of it. I didn't get a comp ball. I was the bowler of the year, the best bowler at that time. During that time frame, I got no comp balls. I get people sending me emails. They won a handicap tournament over the weekend. Can they be on staff? I'm not making that up. I mean, this goes on every day. You're right, and I hear it all the time. There people, they think being on staff is about getting free stuff. Right. Right. You can't, and I actually talk about this in my last episode with Don. I mean, there's a difference between the house bowler and the sports shop bowler. And if you are going to be on staff, I'm pretty sure you guys want to move product. And that's what the guy has to be. The guy who's 230, highest average in the league, nobody cares what he throws. Think about it. The guy's the best in the league. He's on a house shot. But the guy who can sell balls for me is the one who has all of his people that follow him and hang out with him that buy what he buys. And he could be a 190 average bowler, but they respect the guy. They listen to him. Maybe the guy is a nicer person or great person. That's my staff member. Sure. It's not Mr. I-110 regionals. Yeah, we have those guys on staff. Don't get me wrong. The reason a lot of them are on staff is they have a pro shop. So the biggest portion of my staff is a pro shop guys. Sure. Because they deal direct with the customer. Yeah. And people don't understand. It's funny. Other companies that I've been with, even that have sales guys, they don't treat that dollar like it's theirs. This is my dollar. If I give you a ball, it costs me money to give you that ball. It comes out of my pocket. Well, I want to get something back. Yeah. So we built the company on that premise that the average guy, I call him Joe Bowler, is the guy that's going to grow this brand for us. And he's the guy. I mean, he really is. Maybe you came up with a ball called the Radical Joe. Yeah, probably right. Think about what's going to happen now in August, right? They're going to take away the balance hole. I think it's a mistake. Well, I'll give you a reason why it is. Okay, take away the balance hole. The guy that's got 350, 400, 450 revs, throws it 19, 20, 21 miles an hour,
Mm-hmm.
is using a Rhino. He's using a twist. He's using a low-end three-piece ball.
Mm-hmm.
Drilled over the label. No exotic drilling.
Mm-hmm.
The guy with 275 revs that throws it 15 miles an hour and plays up 10 can't get the ball to tilt. So you put a hole in it to help him tilt.
Mm-hmm.
And he does. He blows up the differential. He blows up the intermediate diff, and he gets some motion down lane. You've now said to him, you can't do that.
Yep.
But the other guy's saying, he goes, that's great. I got a bigger distance now between him and me.
And their
Because
pockets wider.
And I don't have to even, I never had to do that. So it's not fair. So what I have to do now is get balls designed for the brand that have that stuff built into it to help that guy. The other guy's not going to buy a Results, Mr. 400 rev guy. But the guy who's 275 that had to have a hole in it, now he's got a ball with a hole in it that you can't see.
I can't count how many high revers love the counterattack solid. That's the go-to for the
Absolutely.
high revers.
Absolutely it is.
Because they want to control it.
It's got like an 023 or 028 diff.
Yeah.
You know, that's it. That's exactly right. Now, that guy's bowling against a guy who's got to buy a $240 ball that had to put a hole in it to get it to do what he wanted. Now the hole's gone.
Yep.
So,
now the hole's gone. Now they're getting more 10 pins. Now they're upset.
Right. And now they got to shoot 2 more spares a game. They're going to miss 1. Okay, so here you go. It goes downhill from there. So my premise is I'm going to design cores going forward for this company. We're going to have cores in the line that are going to have that dynamic built in it already, so you don't have to put a hole in it.
Yep. You guys are all about the angle game.
That's exactly what it's all about. Every one of our balls, we talk about that.
Yeah, I love it.
You know?
I love the idea that you're doing something different because everybody was talking about angles on social media because, everybody knows the answers now. And
I love it.
I
could sit back and just copy what they tell me.
Right.
I'd be broke, but I can copy what they tell me.
but now you're actually using science to do it.
Yeah.
And it's provable.
we give all of the after drilling numbers.
Yep.
So if you want your intermediate diff to blow up or your total diff to blow up, here's a drill pattern for that. If you want it to be mellower, you don't want it to blow up, here's a drill pattern for that. And we give you 5, 6 different drill patterns. Again, it's not for the high end guy, right? Mm-hmm. He can still use our stuff. Don't get me wrong. You watch the TV, the pros win without stuff.
Sure.
We had one of the winningest balls on the senior tour last year with the Conspiracy Pearl.
Yes.
Amaletto won, Walter won 3 in a row. That
was a special ball.
Yeah, that ball's great. But again, the high rev guy is not going to take advantage of that on a house shot, but a low rev guy can drill that ball how he wants it. And that's a great ball.
Absolutely.
So pretty good.
So we made it to the end of part 2. The next part, we're going to talk about more detail about Radical, and then we're going to get into some personal stuff.
Absolutely.
And then we want to know what the future holds for bowling and for Radical.
That part might be a little tricky. I don't have a crystal ball.
Got it. All right. Bowlers,
Chris, thank you again.
Phil Cardinale, till the next time.
We'll see you. Thank you.